Is there evidence of giants on Earth? The subject of giants is probably not for everyone. It seems to be a subject for certain scholars and a few believers. There is also a mysterious spiritual principle involved. This is probably why most people do not understand, perhaps for hidden reasons. Just like a psychological puzzle, you must develop the right perspective to understand it, or it looks like foolishness. My research is based on faith in the Bible, a core of truth in early Jewish writings, other ancient texts, and existing archaeological artifacts. The ancient cultures of our distant past were not simple-minded, as we have been led to believe. They were highly intelligent in mathematics, physics, engineering, and astronomy. Where did this information come from? The following clips are about a few ancient sites and their myths. According to ancient Chinese legend, over 100 pyramids discovered in China are the legacy of extraterrestrial visitors. When local villagers were asked about the pyramids, they said the ancient giants constructed them. When they questioned a custodian of a local monastery, they were told, according to records housed in the monastery, the pyramids were said to be at least 5,000 years old. One can only guess at their real age. Did the antediluvian giants build these pyramids, or was it the post-flood giants? They said the pyramids belonged to the old emperors who reigned in China, and the emperors always stressed the fact that they were not from Earth. Rather, they were descendants of the sons of heaven, who roared down to this planet on their fiery dragons. It is interesting the custodian used the phrase, sons of heaven. This is the terminology of Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. These pyramids tell us about the presence of giants on Earth, whose fathers were the sons of heaven. These pyramids were aligned astronomically, and this astronomy was common in other structures throughout the world. Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, is just south of Mexico City. The largest pyramids are the pyramids of the sun and moon. They were said to be built by an early race of giants from the first world. After the completion of the pyramids, these giants turn into gods. According to Aztec myth, all of the gods sacrificed themselves for mankind. This causes the government to be established and the birth of the Aztec civilization. Once again, we see pyramids built by giants who considered themselves to be gods. These gods instructed the people to sacrifice humans to please them. The early Jewish writings expound upon the Genesis verses and describe many more details about the cannibalistic Nephilim, and we can see their bloodthirsty traits carried out here. These pyramids, like those in China, were built by giants and had astronomical implications. As a matter of fact, this whole complex is a reflection of our solar system. Were the Nephilim trying to duplicate the Giza Plateau? In my books, The Middle of the Earth and the Messianic Temple, I present my evidence concerning the Giza Plateau in Egypt. I concluded the Giza Plateau is the middle of the earth as described in early Jewish writings. It was intended as a witness and sign for the one true God. Through the ancient historian Josephus, I explained the Great Pyramid as one of the pillars of Seth, which was to be an astronomical record for all future generations, including us. The Nephilim were perverting all of God's creation and were attempting to replace God. We see that plan being carried out here at Teotihuacan. The city represents astronomical pyramids, temples with bloodthirsty sacrifices, and was built by giants. In Mayan mythology, a group of 4 protective deities, the sons of Itzamna and Ixchel, are giants who uphold the sky at its cardinal points. Just like Teotihuacan, these giants built the original pyramids as astronomical observatories. It is well known today the calendar of the Mayans is more accurate than our own. They understood the concepts of pi and zero. It is even thought they had a representation of a black hole, called the Dark Rift. Their understanding and knowledge reflected that of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were part angel and had a knowledge far superior than man's. These gods also instructed the people in bloody sacrifices. Even their games depict the dark path set for the Mayans. The image of a priest cutting the still beating heart from a man probably delighted the Nephilim. We can only imagine their intoxicated and wicked laughter. The Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants tell how they devoured man in the worst way. They also created genetically altered beasts to help them in this quest. They were bound and determined to pervert all of creation. These temples tell us of their astronomical knowledge and their reprehensible past. The Maya were still communicating with the fallen angels, who were cast under the earth, and the Nephilim spirits in an alternate dimension. The Maya priests would alter their state of mind with hallucinatory drugs and spoke directly to the gods of the underworld. Even though the angels were already judged and doomed in the underworld, they were still communicating with those who would listen. Although the bodies of the Nephilim were destroyed, their spirits still preached to the Mayans and all other Mesoamericans. Many researchers believe the ruins of Tiwanako, situated only 12 miles south of Lake Titicaca, is the oldest city ever discovered on Earth. Consistent with these theories, the Inca living in the region during the Spanish conquest explained that Tiwanaku had existed for thousands of years before their civilization began. According to Inca legend, Lake Titicaca was revered as the location where the god Viracocha created a race of giants, and later the first humans. The Inca maintained that the giants built Tiwanaku and also many other cities and structures in the area. However, due to their great evil, Viracocha destroyed the giants in a world flood. This legend is still believed by the local Indians to this day.
The facing stones of this site are perfectly set with no mortar. We took a needle, and that needle we tried to insert at every point along the joint, and the needle couldn't be inserted. A perfect cut. Now the ancients constructed the site with astronomical alignments in mind. As the sun rises each day, it moves along the horizon and arises in a different spot. To measure this movement, they built the temple itself as a giant clock to tell them how the progression of the sun was proceeding. And we can use those same astronomical alignments to date the site. The antiquity and the technological sophistication of Tiwanaku should make each and every one of us fully question the origins of civilization.
Giants also figure in the mythology of Stonehenge, one of the most famous structures in the world. These massive standing stones were called the Giants' Dance by the earliest inhabitants, and they believe giants constructed it. Stonehenge is an astronomical observatory, mapping the solstices and the equinoxes. It is also believed to be a place of sacrifice. Who actually built Stonehenge and how they did it are enduring mysteries. Do these legends contain a core of truth? Was it built by giants? The spiral-shaped Gilgal Refaim is located 20 miles from the Sea of Galilee. Constructed of an estimated 40,000 tons of loose rock, it is remarkably reminiscent of Stonehenge. Both of these megalithic structures are considered astronomical observatories, and both were said to have been built by giants. However, in Gilgal Refaim, there is biblical evidence. Israeli archaeologist Daniel Herman is investigating a newly opened grave.
This is a tomb of someone obviously a very powerful man. Look at the size of the stone slabs used. This must have taken an enormous amount of time and effort to construct. When the Israelites came here and wrote their Bible, it was already here. They saw it. So they have documented the identification of the site by saying that this region was ruled by Og, king of the Bashan. Og is described in the book of Deuteronomy as, and I quote, "For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the Refaim." Refaim is Hebrew word for giant.
Did you know Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt? These are obviously man-made pyramids and temples which included human sacrifices in the attempt to carry on the Nephilim tradition. The knowledge of giants and their sacrifices were translated beyond the Great Flood. The local stories of giants in Sudan are similar to the early Jewish writings in Genesis, such as this legend. There was war among the giants, and they were very evil. They killed many people for their resources, and many great warriors died at their hand. One day the Lord decided the giants were the cause of the world being unbalanced and full of hurt and pain. The Lord called the chief of the giants and told them it was time for all giants to leave the world. Archaeologists have unearthed an ancient tomb in northern Sudan, which they believe confirms the location of Africa's oldest human sacrifice. Also found were relics indicating a knowledge of astronomy and astrology. Here again we see astronomical pyramids and human sacrifice, passing on the tradition of the giant Nephilim. Are these megaliths and legends telling the same story? They all point to an ancient civilization more than 12,000 years ago. They tell of giants, human sacrifice, and astronomy. I am convinced there is a thread of truth running through these places and legends and is woven into the Genesis chapter 6 narrative, early Jewish writings, and many ancient texts. These structures and legends are spread over the entire earth. They are duplicates of the Giza Plateau, the original pyramid of Seth, intended to be a sign and witness of the one true God. The Nephilim knew of the coming flood and wanted to pass their legacy just like the pyramid of Seth. All of these legends tell of a great flood destroying man, except for a few who survived in a boat and repopulated the world. There are many more legends of giants around the world, such as the island of Malta, the giants of India in the Mahabharata, the giants of good and evil described on the walls of Angkor Wat, the story of the Sumerian Gilgamesh, the American Indian legends of giants, the Norwegian tales of giants, and many more which I could not include. For a comprehensive list of the ancient texts describing the Nephilim and the Watchers, visit my website, www.thenephilim.us.